the working class is finished. So if you think about the working class, right, we used to do a bathroom, just a bathroom renovation for about £5,000. It's now about £15,000. A kitchen renovation, 15 grand, 20 grand, Howdens, plus your worktop, plus your appliances, plus all the works, plus the plumbing, electrics, everything else, easily up to £30,000, £40,000 plus VAT. Everything has basically tripled in price, and it's basically eradicated the working class. 2019, you could do a loft conversion on a terraced house with a dormer for about £45,000. You're now looking at 90. The cowboys are winning all the jobs because of how expensive things are, and they really don't know what they're doing. And then these people are in their people's houses ruining their life. I've been trying to work out, where do these cowboys come from? Where does poor quality workmanship come from? And I worked it out the other day. There is no one, and no one is verifying that you know what you're doing. Architects aren't QSs. They're not actually pricing jobs correctly. It's basically luring a client in so that the architect can get all the work. They can get their 10, 15 grand's worth of design fees. And then they can tell them anything. Oh, yeah, you're probably looking at 60 grand for the extension when it's actually 100 grand.
This is Jamie from J&J Building Services, joining for the podcast, and the topic is unfair advantage of the Iron Man builder. Is that, fair enough to say? Who is Jamie? He has managed over 100 construction projects, delivered 3 million plus value.
Yep.
And then he's been working in the trade for 17 plus years already in residential construction, and 18 years running J&J Building Services Ltd. Core niche is complex residential extensions, luxury refurbishments, and super mansions. Jamie is also speaker at the Progressive Property Network event where we have met in Stratford. And so he knows how property entrepreneurs think, return on investment, timelines, deal breakers. And he has completed over 151 sporting events, including 4 Ironman races. That is swimming 2 kilometers, 1.9 or something. That is cycling 90 kilometers around, and then is half marathon race, okay, globally in different countries. And he uses sport as a tool for mental health and stress management, and supports different charity work as well. Just yesterday, I was checking that you did some charity runs, and I thought to myself, like, you do the work, you do everything, and then plus you do the charity, and I've been following you for quite long. I was like, but that's dedication. And what the clients say about Jamie, so here's some reviews. So clients' reviews repeatedly use the word perfectionist. Transparency, daily clients updates with reality checks in the building trade where usually builders hide from communication. So he bridges the gap between tough construction and world of vulnerable mental health conversations. So that's Jamie today in studio. What's the number one builder's nightmare? So budget, zero communication, bad finishes, tight deadlines, or management failures.
Budget.
Mental health in construction. Is it a soft topic, major business area to master?
It's a soft topic.
Why are most builders afraid of transparency?
Because they're lying.
Can builders be perfectionists and still hit deadlines?
Yes.
What does it mean, which trusted trader, and why should that matter to anyone?
Which trusted trader is the best endorsement for homeowners as well as the contractors. We've been with them for now 8 years. We've won Which Trusted Trader of the Month 2 times, winning this year with February 2026. And they're all about protecting the consumer. Yeah, it's all about the consumer. And it's very, very hard to become a Which Trusted Trader. So I want to try and make that mandatory, that all contractors and all tradespeople should be with Which.
What is the considered construction scheme, and how does it affect construction?
So this is a company that was created to revolutionize the industry because of all the poor quality standards within construction. They've been going for about 20 years, and they've really revolutionized the construction industry, creating high standards, looking after your workforce, the environment. It's been great.
And now when 2 people have to support the living, how does that been impacting construction?
Yeah, this is a big topic that I like to talk about. 3 years ago, whenever we used to go and do our sales pitch, people would call us in. We need loft conversion. We need an extension. Can you come around the house and give us a quote? It would generally always be the wife or the mother at home, um, and they would have all the time in the world to get involved in the project, look at the drawings, work with the architect, and they'll be fully engaged from start to finish of the project. Now, what we're seeing 2, 3 years later is generally most household incomes now need to be two. So the woman now isn't involved in the project, it's passed on to an architect, and we as the contractor deal with the architect because they haven't got time now because you need two household incomes. So both need to be working, haven't got time to look at the project, have to pass it on to an architect, which is really seeing the squeeze now on the economy.
Is working with architect or client easier?
Um, it's a different experience. I actually prefer working with the clients because it's a direct answer. If we need to change something, or if there's a design defect or whatever, we can go straight to the client. The client lives in the house. It's an answer straight away. Working with architects, yeah, you just got a delay in the response time because they have to get the information, respond to the client. Client has to make a decision. Just takes a little bit longer of a time. But it's not too bad.
Physical fitness or business fitness, what has been the biggest contribution to your best year?
Physical fitness.
Nice.
Mental health, physical fitness definitely wins every single time. If you're overweight and you lack energy, you're gonna really struggle to do a 16, 17-hour day consistently, week on, week out.
I looked up a little bit some background about you, so I have some relatable information. First of all, in 2022, you stepped down from being a director in your own firm. Was it a pivot or was it a burnout?
It was probably a mixture of both. I fell out of love with construction in 2022. I felt that I had reached the maximum capacity of what I could do as a construction owner. I wanted to pass that on to family members. So my brother and father now run J&J Building Services. I wanted to move into development. In order to do that, I don't think I could have had the time to run a construction company and move into development as well. I wanted to change things. I had a year out. I then came back into the family business, and it's the best it's ever been. And it actually works better now with my brother and father being on site and me being back end and me getting the sales in, the social media, Google Analytics, health and safety, JCT contracts, and it just works much better. They love it. I love it. And,
And I love your social media as well.
thank you very
And
much.
clients love it.
Yeah, no, it's going very, very well.
And you have time to update your clients now.
Yeah, so I'm at the first stage. Yeah, so I'm negotiating probably the most important part, which is budget. Construction is extremely expensive now. So if you go back just 2019, you could do a loft conversion on a terraced house with a dormer for about £45,000. You're now looking at 90, right?
Wow.
On top of that 90 grand, you've then got client supplied items, right, which end up being about 30 grand. You've then got the design element as well. And then on top of all of those expenses increasing, you've then got VAT to add on to it. So everything has basically tripled in price,
Wow.
and it's basically eradicated the working class, which is very, very scary. So basically middle class, high class.
So
now.
what happens now to construction industry when finance is scarce?
We want to be at the beginning stage before design. Yeah. We want to indicate to our clients what your costs are going to be roughly for loft, extension, both internal refurb, kitchen, bathroom, whatever the project is. We want to be in there from day one. So we can indicate to you that the costs are going to be X amount. Do you have the budget for that before you start going into design?
Okay, what is the rough calculation for a rear extension in London, a napkin calculation per square meter for rear extension?
Per square meter, you want to be looking at anything from 2,500 to 3,500, with the middle range of about £3,000 per square meter. But it's very hard to work out residential jobs pound per square meter. That's more for commercial and development. But as a quick rule of thumb, probably around about £3,000 square meter.
I wanted to ask about these two dissolved companies. Interesting enough, there is J&J Kitchens and J&J Electricals. Could you Tell me more about those.
Yes, my brother Ben Jenkins, he's a qualified electrician, and he opened up J&J Electrical. As we passed the business on to him, J&J Building Services, there was too much time now as him being a director to run the construction company. So we end up liquidizing J&J Electrical because there was no need for it, because what Ben can do as a director for J&J Building Services is make that company register with the NICA. Yeah, to become a qualified electrician. So because he had that certificate already, there was no need for him to have the extra costs of running another electrical company. So liquidize that one. And what was the other one? J&J Kitchens.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm an entrepreneur, I think I can take over the world. I have multiple businesses, but I didn't have time to do the kitchens in the end. And again, it was costing me to run the business and no revenue coming in. Liquidize it.
And then after you went into the following, which is still running, then is J&J Building Services, J&J Flooring, and J&J Property Services. Can you explain what is the structure between these three companies?
Yeah, so J&J Building Services has been going on for 12 years. I ran it for 8 years as founder, director, and owner. I then wanted to change direction into development. I passed the business on to family members, so brother and father now run that company. I then wanted a company to produce income myself, so I've got J&J Property Services, where I was going to go into property development, HMOs, and loads of courses I was doing. But you also want to have a limited company to be tax efficient. Yeah, so that's why I opened up that company. And then again, I thought flooring. I thought that is minimal requirement, less stress, and you can just get companies in to do the flooring. So there's a quick little revenue stream there.
Yeah.
And because I know how to win the awards and be endorsed by Wix Trusted Traders, I thought that was a nice little revenue stream with minimal things that can go wrong.
Okay, tell me more about the development. I've personally been to your development that you're taking on. We did the survey. So tell me more about that. What's the background? How was your experience with developments, and what's the plan with this one?
Yeah. So we had Peter from Space Survey come in on our first development that we're hopefully about to exchange on. The service was incredible. And you basically got your Leica laser machine out, and we had to go all the way up to the first floor, scan everything, and you have to go from room to room to room. And that's going to be our first development. Fingers, toes crossed. We've been negotiating that one for 2.5 years.
And tell to the people what was in the garage.
In the garage was a old school Rolls Royce with a private plate.
Abandoned.
Well, it needs a good cleanup, let's say. Good tune up. Doesn't come with a deal, unfortunately. That would have been nice. But yeah, it's probably worth 30,000, 40,000 pounds, but it's an old school classic car. It would have been nice to drive that off, and drive it around the block, but doesn't come with a deal. I don't know what the owner would do with it, probably store it somewhere else for another 20 years. But funny, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably restoring that car would cost more than actually buying the car.
Yeah,
100%.
there's no point, is
the
it?
parts is so
But
expensive.
it's just hard to part with.
Yeah. So what exactly is the design and build company, and how does it differ from just a traditional construction company?
Yeah, so because of the poor quality tenders that we're receiving from architects, we've had to move into design and build ourselves now, because we need to be in front of the client from day one. So a design and build company will initially meet a client from day one. So before any architectural drawings are done, created, any structural calculations, they just have an idea in their head. They want to contact us first. We come in, we want to understand your budget, and we want to design everything around your budget. So from day one, we want to divide by 1.2, which divides the VAT. That's your real budget once you've done that calculation. From there, we can then design everything around your budget. What's happening at the moment, and what we previously were, we were just a construction company, and we would get a tender in from an architect, and we would tender for the project. But the architect has already designed a dream house that it's just well over the budget of what the client has. I also believe not every architect, but majority of architects don't understand the true cost of construction, because they're not doing it day in, day out. So they're already setting up the client to fail.
So how is your relationship with architects?
my relationship with architects is fantastic, right? But it all depends on how good the architects produce the drawings and produce their tender documents. What we're getting at the moment is about 80% of architects through tenders, just extremely poor quality. We've got awful drawings. We've got no Excel tender document line by line item. And then we have to read through a schedule of works. Our most recent one was 105 pages long. So us as contractors, we don't get paid for tenders. It takes us 3 to 4 days to really look at it, analyze it, price it. And then we've got to produce, sort of link the schedule of works together with their drawings. And then we've got to make sure that we get the price right. And it's just too complicated at the moment. You should have a drawing for each stage of construction, clearly highlighted what's going on. So, for example, demolition, we want demolition drawings. After that, we then want your M&E drawings, and we want it as clear and as crystal as you can see. And then those drawings should link to the tender. Excel document, line by line item, wall 1 is coming out, wall 1 price. And the architect should also tell us what's the square meterage. Why do we have to measure it out on the drawings and everything else? You've designed them. Do it for us. And you want to make it as simple as possible and have the same documentation for every single contractor. And then every single contractor prices the exact same job. And it's then the architect's responsibility if they've missed something in the tender, not the contractors. So we're finding very, very poor quality tenders that are very complicated, very hard to do. It ends up we have to price it probably 20% more expensive just in case we've missed something that the architect hasn't included. So it's very, very hard.
So what would you say is the relationship in general between the architects and builders?
It's good and bad. It all depends on the quality of the work. If you've got a really good architect and they've produced really good documents for you and it's crystal clear to see what they're doing, what the job is, then and they're easy to work with, then it's brilliant. But if you've got an architect that's sort of arrogant, producing really poor quality work for us to look at, and we're asking them a bazillion questions and they're getting annoyed, well, that's your own fault. Just you've got to simplify construction. You really have. It can be such a simple game.
Our previous guest here was an architect, and he was actually talking about him being an architect and then him doing the developments himself. It was Richard Keys from By Others Architects, and he said that gives him the advantage of actually not just thinking about this is my design, I got my commission, I'm out, but rather than I understand you as a developer. I understand the cost. I understand the return on investment, and the conversation is different. And also, if they would then be accountable and also maybe responsible for the finances, rather than just saying this is my design and this is my commission and I'm out, but understanding that he is also responsible for the outcome. Therefore, like in your development, making 5 flats or 4 flats can make or break the deal.
Yeah.
Okay, and so would you then think that more architects have to be also hands-on and not just being in office, or do you think that's developers' part and let them just be the architect to design?
They've got to understand costs, right? So we always say to our clients, even though they don't want to spend money on the design stage, this is incorrect. You want to spend more money on the design stage because the more detail you get in the design, the less issues you're going to have during your project, right? So architects should generally know how to roughly price per square meter what they are designing. Can simply talk to a QS and get rough numbers. Also, we say to our clients, pay £1,500 for a QS to price your job, labor and materials. Then you can actually make an informed decision on what is or who is the right contractor to do your project, not just going with the cheaper quote. Because right now in the industry, the cowboys are winning all the jobs because of how expensive things are.
And they are the ones who avoid communication after.
They avoid communication, they don't sign contracts, they ask for cash, and they really don't know what they're doing. So one talking point right now, I've been trying to work out where do these cowboys come from? Where does poor quality workmanship come from? And I worked it out the other day. There is no one regulating opening up a limited company in construction for £14.99 or £105, whatever the cost is on Company's House. You can be a contractor, and no one is verifying that you know what you're doing. Health and safety, qualifications, track record, apprenticeships. What other jobs have you done around the area? No one's verifying this. You can now go into the market, meet people, and just charge them a lot of crap, and then these people are in the people's houses, ruining their lives.
That's why which trusted trader.
In my Which Trusted Trader application for Which Trusted Trader of the Month, there's a little section, how can we improve our services? I believe that you should make Which Trusted Trader mandatory, right? So that every single tradesperson or contractor is endorsed by them as mandatory, run by the government, run by local councils. Then which would do the job of verifying that these are good contractors, and which will also hold you accountable if you're not doing anything good,
Okay, so you as running a construction business, what has been the biggest failure or disaster in a project? And have you overcome it, or how do you come out of it?
Yeah, so the biggest flaw for a contractor is not understanding how to price your construction projects properly. It's very, very hard to learn this. I mean, it took me 8-9 years to learn how to properly price a project. So in the early stages, when I took my first loft conversion on, I underpriced the job by £10,000. And because of my morals and values, and wanting to always complete jobs and making sure that the client's satisfied, I had to stay on that job until it was finished, and the company was in 10 grand worth of debt. So I'm starting out in debt, and I've never ever been able to get out of the debt until about 9 years into the business. So one job goes wrong, you underprice it, you lose £10,000 in this example, and then you take on your next job. Your next job then pays the £10,000 debt, but then that is underpriced, and you're just in this vicious cycle from the next job to the next job to the next
Keep
job.
chasing the balance.
Yeah, and then you also you have this. You always want to get a bigger job, a larger job, but the loss is more. So it is crucial to price jobs correctly and actually say no when you're getting beaten down on the price. Walk away from the
Do
job.
builders always get paid, or there's instances where they don't?
It depends on the client. 99% of our clients have been fantastic. Always pay on time. Get to the last payment. Obviously, got to finish the snags, and everyone happily pays. You're unfortunately going to get some nasty people in this world that just purposely just don't pay, and then you have to go through the legal system.
What's the biggest amount that you haven't been paid?
About 25 grand.
Yeah, my brother got he does tiling, and for them was £40,000, and the company just went in liquidation. But the same people continue to do another projects with a different company, and just life moves on. Only he didn't get paid money.
Yeah, so I would say always go for a deposit. Every single job you do. There are obviously some JCT contracts that don't allow you to have a deposit, but generally we ask for a 5-10% deposit, making sure that our cash flow is always right from day one. The deposit pays for our first 2 weeks of work, and then we get another payment. So we are always in front of the payment, not behind the payment. Some contracts require us to work for a month, fund it entirely from our business, cash flow it, and then if that client doesn't like the work or for whatever reason, you've lost that 1 month's of income.
You do quite a lot of projects in West End. So what is that the clients demand, and what is that you deliver that other builders can't?
W10 is a wealthy area. Really, what we sell is just honesty and just do what a contractor is supposed to do. And now that's like some gold dust. It doesn't make any sense to me. We're just doing what we were supposed to do on the tin.
Wow.
Go into a job, turn up on time, keep the place clean, keep the public area clean, keep the neighbors happy, and just do the job on time and to building regs. It's that simple.
I seen your social media of your company where you actually clean and say, okay, that's the time to clean, and you always leave it clean. And I see that in practice as well. Well done on that. And also to add to this, from my own experience, also how to win clients. What is the two secrets. Secret one is be available. If they call, pick up the phone. If they send an email, just answer to the email. And
It's
you'll
that
be
simple. It's
surprised
that
you are
simple.
winning clients.
It's that simple. Pick up the phone every single time. Obviously, there are times when you're in a meeting or whatever, but you always call them back. 1 hour waiting max. Always answer your emails as quickly as possible. And the cleaning wins us every single job, the next job on that road,
Wow.
by just pressure washing and keeping the pavement clean. You'll be
That is
blown away.
that is a selling point, because first of all, people see you there. People see you care. That shows the attitude, and also, like you said, the honesty. I do love that part, because I also believe in the same values as you.
Yeah, transparency. It's
Transparency.
massively. You know,
Yeah.
there are times when things do go wrong. We have a no blame culture in our construction company. If someone does something wrong, they put their hands up straight away, and we just resolve the issue. It's really easy. Just be honest.
Have you ever had to refund a client of some kind of a job or something done wrong?
Not a refund, but like, we would deduct some of the final funds that are due to us, but nothing ever major. Clients are always happy.
Yeah.
Look,
I'm actually going through some challenge where I have paid some money, and the company doesn't want to release the money, but they haven't really delivered anything. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if they were just going to refund, then the case would be closed. But it's just dragging. It just gets worse with every single time. And my mentality for my business is like, if we know that we haven't delivered a good job, I just return the money, because I don't feel good keeping some money. And what good is that to keep someone's money if that only creates negativity, bad reviews, bad reputation? I think it's a learning curve, and no one is perfect, and situation happen, and the same like in any business. And I think the most important thing, like you said, is acknowledging that, and then fixing it. And if not fixing it, then saying, oh, well, we haven't actually done, and whether that's reduction, whether that's refund, whether it's any other way, kind of supporting the person for what they paid for, because at the end of the day, we are here serving our clients. And I think that is a customer service. Customer service is, how can I serve you? People don't like this word serving. They feel like, oh, I am the boss here. But at the end of the day, the more we can serve, the more we get rewarded. And reward is that payment. Reward is, and so if you would be able to serve me, and let's say if I would like to have a coffee and you didn't give me a coffee, then as a reward, I give you the money.
Yeah.
And so the more people you can serve with a coffee, maybe a million people, and million people give you £2, you have 2 million pounds. So the question really is, how can you serve more people? And that's the question that we have to find an answer.
Yeah, we have never. We have always finished every project.
Wow.
Even we've had some horrific clients.
Wow.
Just nasty people that don't pay, that demand everything from you, drag the whole project out, just horrible. But we will always finish. We've finished every project.
In construction, have you ever had to refuse a client and say, we're not going to work with you?
Yeah. So we, as well as the client are sussing us out, we're also sussing you out. Yeah. Majority of the clients that we work with in West London, middle class, and been fantastic. But yeah, there are some instances where we can sense that someone's going to be a nightmare, really argumentative and slow at making decisions. Again, it depends on the job. If the job's good, we'll say yes, but you got to look around when you're working in London. You've got to look at parking, access routes. Is it going to be a 5th-story flat? Is the budget there for the actual time frame it's going to take for the job, dragging tools up? So you look at the job, you look at the client, you make a decision,
Yeah. Okay. And so now you know that the cost has risen dramatically over the past 6 years. So how that has impacted the construction industry in general, and especially your building company? You've been here for multiple years.
Yeah. So the working class is finished. So if you think about the working class, right, we used to do a bathroom renovation for about £5,000. Yeah. It's now about £15,000 to do a bathroom renovation. plus VAT plus client supplied items. So that for me is the working class are finished. A kitchen renovation, kitchens now 15 grand, 20 grand, Howdens, plus your worktop, plus your appliances, plus all the works, plus the plumbing, electrics, everything else, easily up to 30, 40,000 pounds plus VAT. So for me, the working class is finished. That's how astronomical construction costs have risen. The middle class now are sort of getting divided now into two sections. You've got the middle class that have just got the budget to do renovations, and then you've got the high end middle class that have a little bit of spare money and have a sort of contingency of 10-15%, and then you've got the mega wealthy, which are the worst payers.
The worst
Well,
payers.
they have all the money, but they don't want to pay. Whereas the middle class have just about the right amount of money for the budget and pay every single invoice, pay on time, give you compliments, over the moon, just want you in, want you out, want you to move on with your life and become good friends. The people that have the money never pay. They're always struggling to pay, always got an excuse, always delayed. And it's like, you've got all the money in the world. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Is a strategy for the big firms, big companies, delay payments or avoid payments?
I don't know what it is. I just think it's like some kind of control thing. Like they just can't release the money. They have to drag you out. They have to make you sweat. They have to have control. I don't understand it. It's like, we've done the job. You're happy with it. We are happy with it. Why haven't you paid me? I don't get it. We're dragging this out now. It just goes on and on and on. So we generally just work with the middle class. I don't want to start putting it into classes, but you know what I mean? The middle class
Like
are
financially,
the best
yeah,
payers.
yeah.
Well, we have to work out who are the best payers. We have to run a company. We have to have cash flow. We have to pay our staff, overheads, expenses, and dragging payments out for weeks and weeks is no
So
good.
where do the clients get the money for building extensions and doing the construction work?
So generally, again, I go into the middle class, but they have good jobs. They have high-paying jobs, 60 to 100 grand. If you've got two, husband and wife or whatever, two household incomes earning 60, 70 grand, you're going to build up a cash flow in the next sort of 2 to 3 years. You might get inheritance. I don't personally know where everyone gets their finances from, but you're generally seeing in the market that couples can generally produce around about 200 grand, 300 grand on sort of 3-bed houses and converting them into a 4-bed with a loft, an extension.
Yeah, because I think this was going to be a major question for anyone who wants to do in renovations, like where do people get the money, because they want the desire is still there but the affordability is not there. So the question is like where to get the money for the construction. Do you see and that people take renovation loans, or do you see people usually just cover from their own wages, or it's remortgages, or where do usually the money come
Yeah,
from?
good point. Remortgage is one option. We offer finance as a company. Lot of inheritance money comes to families. Good income from their jobs, able to save up for multiple weeks, months, years.
So
Generally.
talk about the finance option in your construction company. How do people get the finance, and how long time do you give them to pay?
Yeah, so we've just partnered up with a finance lender. Basically, they'll do a credit check on the individuals, and they'll look at their mortgage payments. What can they actually afford to take as a loan? We would actually get that payment in one lump sum, so it really benefits us. So we can do the job without having to ask them for the finance, for the money. But generally, yeah, we've partnered up with a company. They offer quick loans basically, and then they'll be paying that back on top of their mortgage as a sort of stage payment.
Do you know what are the rates for this construction loans?
They can be around about 4 to 6%, similar to mortgage rates.
Which is quite good.
It's quite good,
It's
yeah.
quite
But
good.
we emphasize to our clients not to get into debt. But again, it's totally up to them. But
Yeah.
you have to finish the credit check to make sure that you can actually pay the money back.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if that's the rate, it's quite good. It's affordable.
it's
Because
affordable.
I thought if
You just
you
need that little bit of money just to get your full job over the line. Let's say you're doing an extension and a loft, but you can only afford to do just the extension and the internal refurb. You can borrow 50 grand off the finance company, and that will get you the whole job done in one hit, rather than doing the extension first and then coming back to the loft at a later time. But that means that the loft's then going to increase in costs because materials and labor are increasing basically
How does
5%
how
now.
does that compare to a bridging loan? If there's a construction loan that you maybe take out and then let's say you remortgage it, you just add to your mortgage. How does that compare to a bridging loan?
Well, a bridging loan is short term and more.
And rates
more,
probably like 10%.
yeah, 10% per annum, but it's more suited for developments because you're going to get the return.
Yeah.
So you're able to pay off the loan quicker, but you're not going to be able to do that if you are doing a residential construction project.
Most property investors lose money in the middle. Yeah. And so is builders' lack of discipline costing developers the return on investment?
For the developer,
Yeah.
it all goes down to the due diligence at the beginning, design, the tender process, the contract you have with the contractor. If those are all in place and the job is crystal clear and understood what's happening, then you should generally be fine. But because developments take so long, you could have increases in materials, increases in labor. The contractor might not have understood the full scale of the job. They might have underpriced the job. Sometimes contractors, give a low figure just to win the job. And that's a big problem as well. That's why I always emphasize the QS is key to even the small residential projects, because you actually know what the real numbers are. So if someone's coming in £50,000 cheaper than what your QS has given, you know that they've underpriced it, or they're lying to you and they're going to charge you loads of extras at the beginning.
And so when people think about renovating their properties, who they should be speaking first?
You must speak to a contractor. It's so easy now to go onto Google, type in, Chiswick builders. You're going to get 10 builders come up. Just call five contractors and just say, I'm looking to do a loft. I'm looking to do an extension. Give me a rough figure over the phone, how much these items cost. And then you'll know just from the conversation. Loft conversion's about 45, 50 grand for the shell. Your extension's about 70 grand for the shell. You want to do an internal refurbishment, that's about 45 grand. You then have your client supplied items, 30, 40, 50 grand. Then on top of that, VAT plus design, and you're going to be looking at 300 grand, let's say, for example. Then the client knows before speaking to anyone, by the time you've spoken to 4 different contractors, you're going to get a rough indication of what the real costs are before you start going into design, actually spending money.
Yeah, first find out the cost if you can afford it, if that
Don't
works.
go to architects.
Don't go to
No,
architects.
they don't know. Not everyone, but they don't know. They're not contractors pricing up jobs day in, day out. So I don't understand why they would be the go-to person to ask for the costs. They also have to.
I think it's a general maybe lack of knowledge. People don't know what to do, and they go like, okay, who is the person who puts everything together? It would be one answer is an architect, but it's no. It's the builder, the contractor.
You want to go to the contractor first because they're pricing jobs day in, day out. They know their real numbers. And if they're honest, they'll give you a real indication of what the actual price will be, right? Again, architects aren't QSs. Some are, but they're not QSs. They're not actually pricing jobs correctly. And it's basically luring a client in so that the architect can get all the work. They can get their 10, 15 grand's worth of design fees. And then they can tell them anything. Oh, yeah, you're probably looking at 60 grand for the extension when it's actually 100 grand. Now we're going into the tendering process. All the contractors are pricing for the job. All the tenders come back in. We haven't got the money for this. What the hell? This is 500 grand. You told us it was going to be 100 grand.
For your construction company, do you get a lot of work from architects or straight from clients?
It's, I would say, 50-50. You have lots of tenders that come in from architects.
So it's still people go to architect and then architect goes to you.
Yeah, it's not wrong to go with an architect, but we just feel right now in the market that architects are not giving the correct information to clients
And the
regarding
expectation
budget.
is...
An architect will design you Rolls Royce. Let's have a massive roof light there, roof light there, roof light there. Let's give you a 50 grand kitchen, lovely tiles. Let's put 2 bathrooms in that room there. And the client's like, yeah, I love this. This is brilliant. This is costing hundreds of thousands of pounds. So better to come in with us first. Let's look at your budget. Crucial. Divide by 1.2. Take the VAT off. That's your real budget. Now let's look at client supplied items. How much do you want to spend on your kitchen? Oh, I want a 50 grand kitchen. All right. Well, your budget's now this. Oh, yeah. Oh God. We'll have to get a 10 grand kitchen. And you work backwards with clients. Not saying that architects are bad at all, but yeah, tender comes in from them. or we go direct with a client, which is the best way for us now in the current market.
And so, when talking about delivering property developments, is the site culture the reason for the delays in development?
What's the reasons?
Yeah, is the reason of like the site culture the reason for the delays?
I would say with development, you're getting into a whole nother. So when you're looking at residential projects, you're dealing with a client and a small scale project. When you're looking at development, you've got to look at the developer's perspective. They've got this huge loan bearing down on them. They've got to sell the houses. And again, it all goes down to, has the contractor priced the job correctly? Because if they haven't, they're just going to walk off site. And then you're left. And again, as well, it's very hard to actually see, is this contractor actually good quality workmanship? Do they actually know building regs? Are they actually going to produce what it is that I want and what they've priced for? It's really hard for clients, really
Who
hard for
then
developers.
provides the building regulations?
That would be building control, but well, it's a mixture of architects and building control. So now architects have to produce building regs drawings. Yeah, and all the building regs have to be on all the drawings. So you have an individual drawing with all the building regs, insulation levels, tiles you're using, M&E, everything else. So now architects produce building regs, and building control come to site to make sure that building regs have been followed. You're not actually supposed to now have any advice from building control. They're just there to make sure that they have verified that you have done everything correctly to the drawings.
And so, if someone would just do a smaller project, they would still go with architect for the building regulations, or they can go with a builder. Let's say it's just an extension in the rear.
No, building regulations have to be drawn up now by architects legally.
Yeah, but let's say it's permitted developments, let's say 3 meters. You don't need to go for planning. You invite the council to have a look and inspection of the construction. If the builder is not eligible, can that go through, or you still need the architect?
You still need the architect to produce building regs. That's how it's done now. Architect produces the building regs drawings and calculations or whatever. You then those drawings are then sent to building control. If you use private building control or the council, they have to verify that everything has been done correctly to building regs and that the building control officer is satisfied. That has to be done beforehand. Contractor can't do that.
So it's still synergy between the builders and the architects. It's just a question of who then gets approached first to get the realistic expectation, because if the expectation is unreal, then we face disappointment, and then it's hard to recover from that emotionally and that overcome that, like, oh, you know what, actually I was expecting this was going to be the cost and we're going to have this amazing house, but now the cost is quite different and it doesn't look as nice as I was expecting.
Yeah. So 50% of our work every year is renovating poor contractors' works.
Oh, wow.
Cowboys. 50%.
50% you are redoing someone else's work.
Yeah. So one of our most recent clients in Putney, we were the 4th contractor.
Wow, on the same
project. Number 4. So when we entered the first time we did the site visit.
How could they know that the number 4 builder is not the same as the previous 3?
Well, because we will go in there and explain everything about health and safety, building regs, looking after the neighbours, cleaning up site, first aid kit, music to his ears. He hasn't heard this before. What's health and safety? He said. Health and safety, mate. It's the law. You've got to abide by it, mate. Got to have construction phase plan, all your documentation, risk assessment, method statement, public liability insurance. And then we showed obviously all of our endorsements. We got that job straight away, and the structural engineer had to be appointed, and 15 structural errors from the previous contractors. So we had to rectify 15. Wow. They had stud walls not on anything in the loft, stills in the wrong place. The staircase to the loft conversion finished 1 step higher than the finished floor level.
Wow.
And I mean, the site was a complete bomb site. It was just so unsafe. No health and safety on site whatsoever. It was just shocking. But anyway, we got him in, got his family in, and they are over the moon. All that stress has been relieved on that project. We had to deal with the neighbours, because obviously the neighbours weren't communicating very well with the previous contractors, as you can imagine. Job dragged on months and months and months. So what I do is I go around, I knock around the neighbours' houses, I introduced myself. I give them a number to call. Any issues, you call this number straight away. And then built the rapport back up with all the neighbors.
Nice.
Clean, you know, they had the pathways cleaned. You know, just built that rapport back up and got that job done and client in.
This is a winner already, because biggest thing is also the neighbors' complaints and their dissatisfaction, but it comes from not actually consulting them when the work is started. And I actually spoke to an architect in the networking event, and she actually said that was her approach. That first thing that she did for the project is she went, spoke to all the neighbors, discussed what were going to be happening, asked for any suggestions, and then when the project starts, it was just going smoothly rather than dealing with objections and then annoying phone calls. And like you said, you have a phone call directly to me rather than going to a console
It's all
and
people
complaining
want.
to someone
All
else.
people
You
want.
can straight away resolve the issue rather than go and stop the project halfway, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very, very simple. It really is easy. But for some reason, contractors have a problem with talking and communicating.
Okay, so in the construction, can you explain how the tendering process, quoting process works?
Right. So how tenders should be produced, yeah, is client goes to contractor, contractor has an in-house architect, architect produces drawings to what the client wants. Then you'll have a structural engineer that is appointed. Structural engineer does the steel beams, the foundations, block and beam floor, concrete floor, whatever is required for the job. You then have a party wall surveyor that comes in and surveys the neighbours to do a party wall agreement. That can take 6 to 7 weeks. You then have to appoint a building control officer, and then your architect will produce the drawings, and then your architect will have to also produce building regs calculations as well. And then all of that is compiled into a tender document. We want an Excel tender document, line by line item, linked to the drawings for every single stage of the process. So demolition first, you're taking down wall one on first line, how much for that, meter squared, blah, blah, blah. Then once you've got your tender document, as a client, you would then tender that to 3 to 5 contractors. Some use 10, you know, and then unfortunately the contractor for free has to then go into the tender process of pricing it. Every single tender then goes into the architect. The architect will then produce the information for the client. The client will then make a decision on who they feel is best to work on their house and their property. It's a very hard process.
So for your construction business, how many tenders you have to give out for one to come to a
How
close
many
deal?
tenders do we do and how many do we win?
Yeah, like average, let's say.
We're at the moment we're doing 5 tenders per week, which is what I'm doing. I wouldn't be able to do that if I was still on site. Yeah, so I am the one that prices all the jobs. I use a pricing software called priceajob.com. If anyone wants to have any training on that, let me know. But priceajob.com, £45 a month, cancel anytime, small fee for me to do the training. But basically, you upload the drawings, you scale off everything from the drawings. You then have a pricing software. You can put in foundations, concrete floors, decoration, plastering, whatever, and it will automatically calculate everything from the data you've taken off the drawings, put it all into a price, and then it produces its own tender. So that's how we do tenders.
Yeah. And my question is, how many tenders in construction business you have to give out to win one?
Yeah, sorry.
Let's say you do 10, you win one, or you do from every 20, you win one.
We've got a 1 in 5 win rate. So we've got to do 10 tenders to win 2 jobs. So it's very hard to even do 5 in a week. You know, I've got it down to about 16 hours per tender. And then you've got to wait for the response of the client. Then you've got, oh my God, you're so expensive. I said, well, that's the real cost. It's not extras. It's start the job, finish the job, get it done for you. Building regs followed, everything. Yeah. So 2 in 10, and we need to increase that, but that just because it's so expensive.
So I just did a quick mathematics for those who are watching. Construction business to provide a tender, and if that costs 16 hours to produce one tender, and if every 5th tender wins you a job, that literally means that you have to do 5 times 16 hours, which means 80 hours of work to win one job. That means 2 weeks of work to win one project.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible. So the company's paying me to
So
do
I
to do the
think
pricing.
that now explains where the cowboy builders comes up. They don't want to invest 16 hours or in this case 80 hours to win a job. They want to get the money. Therefore they say this is whatever the price, and then if anything goes wrong, I don't care about it, or they just say you need to pay me more. And the conversations is way different than when you go with someone who has actually sit down, thought about it, calculated everything, and will be able to deliver with later on not coming and then adjusting the prices and with certainty.
Yeah, no variations basically.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's really time consuming. It costs a lot of money. Um, all the cowboys at the moment are kind of winning the projects because it's so expensive in construction. So we kind of nail ourselves by being honest, but we get the right jobs at the right time, and we've been very, very successful at the beginning of this year and 2025.
So when you are doing tenders for a construction project, how do you make sure that it's realistic?
So this is where I go back to you've got to have good drawings. This is why it's infuriating for me when I get a 105-page schedule of works I've got to read paragraph by paragraph by paragraph, and then combine that into the drawings, and then there's no tender document. So it's infuriating spending all that time on that and then not winning the job. Sometimes you don't even get the feedback from the architect. What price was he in? Was he mid-range, high? Like, was our quote good? You know what I mean? It's an absolute nightmare. I've always said the tendering process should be a cost that is involved in the design stage. 300 quid, 400 quid, whatever it is for and then what you would get then is actually the clients would actually choose two contractors that they actually want to use to actually price the job because they've got a fee to pay.
Wow.
It's unfair, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I enjoy pricing jobs. I enjoy looking at drawings, and I'm very good at it now.
So you talk about the drawings and you also talked about the wrong drawings. Now, why did you choose us to do the survey for your development? And like what you could say for people where they can avoid these mistakes early in the stage?
I wanted to use Space Photo because I've been watching your social media. We're obviously good friends. But
Space Survey is the surveying company. Space Photo is the marketing company. We have two. So
oh, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I've just watched your content and seen the quality of your work, and then I really thought we need to add this not into just our developments. We need to add this into our design and build company because it's an absolute no-brainer. Scan the building, and then you get all of the measurements, and then we know exactly what is the existing building, and then we overlap that in the future with the new designs. And you can see when you're scrolling through the building. I was just blown away by this, and you can really easily show clients exactly what it is that we're doing and what is changing. But I really liked this. Is really good for like structural drawings where you can't see behind the wall, and you can scan it, and then we can now link the new beam in, and we can see exactly where it's going to sit. So
Yeah.
and just your service, man, your service, all the tools you use. It's been incredible. One of many.
I think now I remember because I asked you about the structural walls and which can be taken down, and then I showed you a screen share, and I was actually doing the section cuts, and I was actually cutting the building live on video, which you can. It's like a limit box where you can drag, and it just subtracts from the building, and you can see like underlying everything. But that's a 3D model that we built from the scan data, so that has actually triggered you to
That
realize
is exactly
it's
what triggered
like
me to use your services. We're partner up forever now. I think it's an absolute
because
no-brainer. I think every single architect, every single contractor, developer needs your services.
yeah. And did you know that there is two aspects to it? First is scanning.
Hmm.
Scanning is you create the cloud, so it's just the pure scan data. And then the next is you create the drawing, so you create the model. So we have scanned your project. Now we are in the building phase where we actually do the model because we'll be delivering the 3D model as well for you. But what I'm saying is from the scan data itself, which costs half of the price, can do the same, and we can actually cut and slice the scan data, because scan data is what we take. Let's say my hand is the scan data, and on the scan data we create the model. And when we give you the model, we say here's the model, but the model is actually the copy of the scan data.
Yeah.
but it just costs time and money to create this. But this is what the architects then work with, because you cannot adjust this, but this you can then extend, remove, you can do
Yeah.
whatever you want. But this is the real copy of it. And so what I'm saying is, even if you have done a project, and if you have any doubts, where does the walls align or no, or the cowboy builder has been before, and steel beam on a plan should be here, you want to know how does that actually match in real life. We can just do the scan and slice the scan and check from the scan and give a reference and say, this is where it should be, this is where it is. And do you know that on larger multi-story like developments, that's what they do? Because see, they have a 3D model of how the development should look like.
Yeah.
Then builders goes in and build it. Okay, but they want to catch errors before they have finished. So therefore, there's regular scanning happening throughout the process, because you go out, you scan it, and then you say, this is my 3D model, but actually we're a little bit off, because a little bit off here times 10 floors, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
So that's why on those projects, they do the scanning at regular intervals, and then they overlap what should be there, like you have different stages, to what actually is there. And the scan data is the reference point. And so that's actually like a quality control and real life build. Because otherwise, how can you then compare what has actually built, unless you then go and measure every single
And it's like
thing?
millimeter margins, you know.
Yeah,
So it's,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
I love it. I
yeah.
love it.
Well, see, the thing is, it also depends on what tool you use, but from there it's down to maybe 3 millimeters to 5 millimeters is actually the margins
And
there,
it's very handy for basements.
especially for
You know,
basements.
that's the key.
And you don't know how the basement goes under the property, whether it goes under some
Yeah.
area where you don't
Other
want.
people's houses.
Exactly.
You know, you're going to dig a basement and then hello.
Hello, yeah. And that was actually your architect that you choose to work with.
Yeah.
His podcast, he said that his project actually was a case like this, where he said if they were going to be doing the piling, then they would actually
Piled into the house.
exactly. But he didn't know that, and therefore he instructed the scanning, and that's why he did the scanning. And because of the scanning, he only find this out, and without that, he would not know.
Yeah.
Because you are
Think how
in
much that
the
would've cost him.
basement, and you think
Yeah.
he said he was gonna go broke, and he
Yeah.
said
Health and safety
he said the
would have been
business was gonna
involved,
be gone.
Health
said-
and safety would have been involved. Shut down. Endless fines.
Yeah.
Project not finished. Client unhappy.
So that is for larger projects. That's where you see actually the big advantage. Maybe if you're doing a kitchen renovation,
Yeah, you wouldn't do it for a kitchen or a bathroom.
the cheap builder. What should clients be looking out when they are selecting a builder?
Track record, previous projects that they've executed, endorsements. Yeah, what awards have they won? Who are they accredited to? Which trusted trader? Consider construction scheme. Any local councils? You know, and then you want to look at trust. Is very hard to build because all contractors at the beginning are going to say the same stuff. We're the best. We're this. We're that. But you want to try and get in with one of the clients of the contractor and have a private meeting with them or a call and ask the client what was the journey like with J&J Building Services or that particular contractor. Word of mouth is a really good one.
What would be your mainstream of business? Where do you see the business coming in for your construction business?
We want to get into developments now. Yeah, that's the big one. We've got a development company, and then we want to use J&J Building Services as the contractor, right? So we're going to keep materials really, at cost price, labor at cost price, be the developers with the two hats on, developer and contractor. And I really want that partnership now to really grow. And I want us to get our first one in Fulham, which you did the scan on. I want to get that over the line. I want to get the planning for that, get it all sold. And then after that, so it's a long-term vision, but after that, once we've got, a good cash flow from selling the flats, hopefully, then go into the market and really take on development, utilizing both construction company and development mindset, collaborate and still do clients' work. Of course, I think we're really important in the industry. I think there's very few builders that are actually doing it right, and it's very, very satisfactory to see our clients get moved in on time, on schedule, on budget, and that family can now move on with their lives, have a good life with their kids, and I'm seeing that in the market.
What is the biggest project that you have completed?
We've done probably about £500,000, £500,000. Massive job in South Kensington, 3-story double mansion. Gutted the entire place out back to brick. That one there was quite funny because there was 3 houses in one. And what I mean by that was when we were demolishing the walls, you could take the first skin of plasterboard off, and then there was the existing house, and then you took off that bit of plasterboard, and then there was an existing house. So they had built 3 times in 100 years.
Yeah.
So the bathroom had 3 layers of tiles on it, because we do demolition and then rebuild the whole thing.
Yeah.
These whoever's the clients, whoever built the house, multiple times have built the house over many years. There was so many different layers that basically 120 mil was added onto the wall from each different job. So when we did the demolishment, they actually gained 120 mil on both walls in all the bedrooms, all the bathrooms, everything. It was crazy. And it used to be an old Staples for the horses. So we dug it all out, and there was horse bones and everything. It was crazy. But £500,000, 9-month project, handed over on time. Beautiful house in South Kensington.
And what would be the smallest project that you would take on?
Right now we wouldn't take anything on probably lower than 120, 130,000. 100 grand, let's say, would be the cheapest one. But again, your business is all determined on cash flow. If you haven't got any work on, you'll take a 50 grand job on.
And how busy you are now? 2026. How busy the construction business is?
So we're into 3rd month of the year, and we've signed up six construction projects. Also continuing 2 from last year. So at the moment,
So 6 were going to last for you for a year or half a year?
No, 8-week programs, 100 grand jobs. We are so fast at what we do. Ben and Nigel are screaming and shouting at me to get more jobs in. We're renovating now a 3-bed house, converting it into a 4-bed house, loft conversion extension. We're doing in 12, 14 weeks, which is astonishing. And that's just because we've got the teams.
Yeah.
We've got a demolition team that comes in, 10 of them. They demolish the whole apartment or house back to brick in 6 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And then next week, another 6 days, and first fix carpentry's done. Next week, plumbing and electrics are done. 3-4 weeks, and you're halfway through the project.
I think that the skill is in repetition, that you know what you do. You go with confidence and with a speed, and you don't have any guesswork. It's just pure execution.
Yeah, but that has taken 12 years to get.
Yeah.
We've had problems with plastering teams. Decorators have been shocking. It's taken 11 years to finally get multiple squads, subcontractors together.
Can I ask a question? So I spoke to my brother. He runs a construction. He works in construction as well. He said some of his developers that he works with, he said they will refuse to continue the work whilst their team, which is the plasterers, will not going to start the job, and maybe they are busy for maybe another 1 month, and they're not going to do it. They'll not allow other plasterers to come in unless those guys come in and do the job, because simply they don't want to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 builders and then redo the job again. They rather wait and do it correctly than do it quicker and risk it.
He's a genius.
Yeah.
Once you find a good team, you pay whatever they ask for, and you use them every single time, because they are like gold. Yeah. Especially with plastering, because plastering you'll always pay a plasterer, but you don't actually know how good their plastering is until you get the first coat of paint on. So that's why they're notorious for being so bad, because they get paid, they go off, they don't care, they muck up a wall, another job. But until you get the first layer of paint, obviously if it's really bad, you can tell, but you generally can't tell until that first mist coat goes on, and then it's too late. You paid them, they're off now.
Jamie, since 2019, how has the construction costs increased in construction?
Astronomically. We are now looking at 3 times the price since 2019. So if you look at a standard terraced house loft conversion dormer, you was looking at pricing £40,000 to £45,000 in 2019. you're now looking at anything from £90,000 to £110,000 for a small standard loft conversion. If you look at extensions, they used to be around about 60 to 65 grand for the shell, which means to plastered finish. You're now looking at 90 to £110,000 for an extension. Internal refurbs, 50 to 60 grand. Kitchens have tripled in price. Sanitary ware, tiles. It is a really, really scary time. So there's three factors. There's materials, which have tripled. Labor has tripled, but also building regs have increased. So not only are you having to put more insulation in, it's also more expensive. So if you look at the front slope of a loft conversion, when you're doing a renovation for a loft conversion, you now have to put in multiple layers of insulation to get the heat value. So you're putting in more and you're costing more to put in. And then on top of all of that, you then have the wonderful VAT to add on. So generally now, looking at jobs now, so you've got increases in design. So your design used to cost 5 to 6 grand. That's now up to 15 to 20 grand. You've then got your client supplied items. So kitchen, worktops, appliances, tiles, flooring. You're now looking at 30 to 40 grand for those items for a general refurb. So you've got your design, you've got your client supplied items, then you've got your contractors' costs. You're doing a loft and extension, so add all those up, plus your VAT, a general 3-bed house with loft and extension, so converting it from a 3-bed to a 4-bed with an extension, full refurbishment, including VAT and everything I just discussed, you're looking at £300,000 very, very easily.
Wow.
So who has £300,000?
There is a certain level to which you can push the prices up. Okay, you push the prices up on every single category here. That doesn't mean that people are earning more. And if they are not earning more, does the construction is slowing down? What's the situation?
Well, it's quite bizarre. We're getting quite a lot of inquiries, but no one understands the costs. So architects are telling them it's X amount, which is 30-40% off. They might be doing that just to win the job. Can't say that, but generally, once the tender process has finished, the cowboy builders are winning the projects because they're the cheapest to the budget. And I would always say to clients, just wait, save some money, and go with the right builder, not the cheapest builder, because 9 times out of 10, we're always getting the callbacks. And you were right, Jamie. Cowboy builders, they were awful. They charge us loads of extras. They're actually more expensive than what you are, but they're not actually doing any good quality work. Can you come in? Can you rectify everything? Can you do the job? So now we're charging them to go back into the job, rip out all of the poor quality work, which is 10-15 grand, then start off at our original price. So it is incredibly important that clients go to contractors first, pick their brains about how much things cost, get an honest opinion, then go into your design if you feel that you're comfortable.
Where people can find you, and if they have any questions or want to ask any tenders, what are the details where they can find you, where they can meet you?
You can find us on social media. So you can find me on Facebook as Jamie Jenkins. We also have a J&J Building Services page. You can find me on Instagram, J&J Building Services. And then you can find us on Google, LinkedIn, and you can follow me personally as well. Feel free to call me anytime. I answer the phone to a lot of people, help a lot of people out.
Perfect. Yeah. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Lovely.
Cheers.
Thank you so much, man. Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Woo! Good. Yeah.